Hi, I'm here with Niki Michell, a painter who painted my portrait for the Archibald Prize. He's a lot of things, and we've become good friends. And so tell us, how did you come to contact me, and how did you tell us about how you did the painting?
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you especially for letting me do it. And so what happened, from mine, I started painting a number of portraits of my friends, and I decided that I would like to enter the Archibalds. And I had a look, and it was coming up, and I thought, well, I need someone, a sitter of note. And I've been following you for some time. Your story really resonated with me, that injustice, that moral dilemma. And I sent off an email. I believe it was worded something like, "Good morning, David. I'm Niki Michell, a Brisbane artist of no particular note, and I'd like to paint you in the 2023 Archibald Award." And I put a couple of examples in there in the style that I wanted to do, and your assistant got back to me and said, we're interested, and I'll talk to David. And then a couple of days later, I get this email that with the subject heading, David says yes. It was fantastic, it was really exciting. I've been on a buzz ever since.
That appealed to me when you said, "of no particular note." I thought that was quite cool. I laughed.
Okay, yeah, great.
And I thought that's kind of modesty. And I looked at the pictures, and I thought you were pretty good.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
And you're also a bit of an activist, and you've been on Twitter, and that I liked that. I thought, well, there's got to be some sort of magic in the universe. This is someone who is very much on the same path, and that I thought is a certain amount of magic. Now, you painted it in a very big canvas, and you painted it in a very quick time. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's part of it, I believe most of it actually is to do with the bipolar that I have, and so I get manic, and I just can't stop until whatever it is done. And so once I was ready to go, I made the canvas, and then I was sort of, you can't buy them that big. I don't know if you can. I don't know. But anyway, I had to make the frame, and I ordered. That was the biggest sheet I could get, 2 meters wide, and so I made it, and then I sort of. Once I was able to start, that was it. I couldn't stop. I slept a little bit when I got really tired, and then I woke up and I painted, and it was absolutely manic, But it just. And once it was finished, I went to bed. And I slept for a couple of days.
You say manic, but it's interesting because the bars, they obviously are done in fine detail. There's no, in fact, even your style, the particular colours, it's quite detailed. So you managed to control that manic energy.
Yeah, it was. I did it with a really small brush. Most of it maybe about a 5mm brush. And then when I first painted, I put the base down in the acrylic paint because it dries quite quickly, and so I can have a look at what I've got, if I've got the right shapes and things like that. And if it's kind of there, then I'll start painting it in oil paints. And quite often with my paintings, I get them in the 2 goes. I paint the base, and I say okay, and then I paint. But yours, it took quite a lot with this little 5mm brush. I painted the face a few times. And things like that, the shadows in the shirt, so that you got the shape in there without it being, too overwhelming. But yeah, it was just, this tiny little brush, and a fair bit of alcohol actually. Most of it was done intoxicated. Yeah,
well, that with the music blaring, all of that appeals to me. I think if I was a painter, that's the sort of way I would paint.
Yeah.
As you know, I've had PTSD from my experiences, and as you were saying, it struck a chord with me when you said you had bipolar. I didn't know that, but I was just kind of drawn to you and thought you'd be a good fit. And then when we exchanged emails, the more I heard. Tell us about getting diagnosed with bipolar. How did it start to manifest itself?
Yeah, it had been around, I guess, when I reflect for a long time, but, I just thought that was me, I'm just, that's who I am. But it came to a head when I sort of I chased down a lead that led to something else, and I ended up in quite a predicament on top of a concrete truck in a South Bank, with a 7-hour standoff with the anti-terror police and stuff. Just an unarmed guy, but I was afraid that they were out to get me, and it's some of it's based in reality, and we can talk about that another time, but part of it is reflecting is now probably delusional. And so that happened, and that siege, and then the doctors really, a number of them, not just one, but a number of them, all concurred that it was bipolar. But I still didn't believe it for another year and a half, actually. I thought that I was being followed and the government was monitoring me. And I saw these people in the street. I knew who they were. I could identify them, I was happy that I know what's going on here. And this was happening. And and I was getting ready, actually, mentally ready to take them on, to get the answers. I wrote to politicians a little bit and some journalists, and I poked at them, because I wanted the answers, why are these people following me? And then a friend of mine was able to point out a delusion on a different subject, and I sort of questioned them, like, are you gaslighting me here, or is this for real? And she was, what are you talking about? I'm saying, like, no, this is, because from how I viewed things was totally real. And so I was able to start to see it, and it really broke down, actually. Really just broke down, and I called my sister, and I got a network around me, and then I sought out the help. Part of the agreement when I went to court, because when I went to court with the charges, I made quite a scene. I damaged, I shouldn't laugh, there was 6.8 cubic metres of wet concrete in that back of that truck that I was on, which went hard. I damaged property, these things were ruined. And there was in the management plan, when they put it through, all the charges were dropped because it was, the situation that it was from the doctors. But I didn't want to even use that, I really believed it. I said, no, I don't want to use this. You're saying that the doctor's defence, I really did not want to use it. I said, no, this is because it's not real, that's not true. I'd rather take the penalty, because these people came after me. It was delusional, much of it, and I probably should accept most of it, but some of it wasn't. And so, I was that staunch about it. And my lawyer was really great. She was a legal aid. But she was open to doing whatever I wanted,
Very good lawyers.
Yeah, she was absolutely brilliant. I couldn't thank her enough. But that happened, and then, but once I registered, so I went into that management plan, and I contacted them, and then I got a good doctor who I'd previously dealt with when my divorce happened. Great doctor, and we've got a management plan I see him fortnightly. And I just openly tell him, look, this is what I did. I talked to him about the painting. I said, look, I know what I've done. I knew when I was doing it that this was manic, and that if I don't sleep properly, I'm opening the window to delusions. And I said, but I did it anyway. And then so we've discussed that, and he's keeping me accountable, and we're working on it. But yeah, it's been interesting, yeah.
And getting it down to Sydney was a chore in itself. It's not something you're going to fit in a car. How did you get it here?
This is a really good story, actually, David. I work in the music entertainment industry. I've got a number of friends in there, and some guys at Chameleon Lighting, quite big, and Road Pro touring company, the shipping touring tracking company. They both wanted to help me out, but they didn't have anything that coincided, and so I was sort of resigned to that I'm going to have to put this painting on the back of the ute and bring it down, and it was too big. And I had my last shift was with the bump in bump out of the band, the Vamps, a British rock band, I believe they are, at the Tivoli. And I just got chatting with the tour driver, the truck driver. I said, oh yeah, we're just shooting the breeze. I said, oh yeah, where's your next venue? And she said, Sydney. I said, you couldn't get painting in for me? And she said, yeah. And so it was the 11th hour, and they brought it down and absolutely took care of it. It was fantastic. Yeah,
these guys
rallied around. Yeah, it was really.
The Vamps are my vintage, and they were playing at the Enmore, and this came down with them.
Yeah, it came down with them.
And then you got it off, and came here to stay with me for the last. I can relate to what you were saying with your bipolar, in that you, when I first saw some of the symptoms of PTSD, I was thinking I was saying one word, only a small thing in my brain, but a different word was coming out. Like something like Chardonnay, you know, or champagne. You're thinking that you'd ordered champagne, and you hear champagne in your brain, and they come back with Chardonnay and they get really shitty with it, and they're like, no, you didn't, and you can't believe, you know, that because you don't actually hear what comes out of your mouth. You hear what your brain's telling you is coming out of your mouth, and that took me a while. I denied that for a while, and then I heard myself in another situation say. It was only small things like a date. I said, I can do the 4th of August or whatever. And they said, you said the 4th of July. And I was like, oh. And you start to realise when things mount up that actually there's some sort of disconnect. Yeah, of course, you know, it's hard to know where to draw that line, but it's great that you've got a plan, you've got a management plan. You certainly produced a fantastic painting, and I think we'll be friends. And you've also, with the Manic thing, it's interesting though. It produced quite a few things, because you told me a story about your Nikki the Bricky phase, where you tried to raise money up for people, and you ended up going to Cambodia and doing some good work over there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, what happened, I was watching Australian Story on television, and I must have been in a low. I didn't know what they were at the time. And it was on Geraldine Cox, Australian Story on Geraldine Cox with Ray Martin, and I ended up a blubbering mess, you know. I was so moved by it. And I contacted them and I said, look, I've got this idea, I want to help you out. And I told them the idea, and I'll tell you in a moment. And they said, yeah, great, let's do that. So I said, I called it the 100 Bricks campaign, where I would write to all the bricklayers in Queensland and ask them to lay
because you were a bricklayer.
Yeah, I was a bricklayer, for a long time, 25 years, born into it, my dad and his dad, and so on, you know. I think that's the only way you get a trail, actually, is you're born into it. It's an uncle or it's your dad. And so I had this idea, we'd lay 100 bricks, and we were getting paid $1 a brick at the time, and so I thought, let's just, you know, taught these guys into laying an extra 100 bricks one day, and don't know, I thought it was a bit idealist, you know, looking back. And so I went on to the QBCC, the construction licensing site, and I don't know how I obtained it. I mean, I'm not that clever, but I got the list of 130,000 trades on an Excel spread. You know, they were just all there. The painters, big list. There's 130,000 tradespeople on there. All sorts. Every trade there is listed that has a license. And I went through this list and I highlighted all of the bricklayers in there. And then I wrote them all a letter. It was a generic letter, but each one I typed in their personal name, printed it out, signed it. I handwrote all the envelopes and I stamped them. And there was 2,533 of these, and I sent them all on the same day. So there was boxes and boxes of these envelopes, right? Just dozens of them.
I love the way you remember the exact number. Yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget it. I'll never ever forget it. I mean, it was a lot. I might have even started numbering them. I can't remember. But anyway, I sent these out, and so the stamps were $1 at the time. So, you know, not including the stationery and everything else, that's $2,533. I think we raised about $600. You know? And they came from my dad. He's a bricklayer. He got a letter. He rang me, but you know what? That was really nice because I didn't tell him what I was doing. He had no idea.
Yeah.
And he got a letter, and he just, you know, he was really proud.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
well, that's something that's good because fathers and sons can often have difficult relationships, and he didn't go mad. He said that was a nice thing.
Yeah, and he donated, you know. I think I did too, so we were $200 $600. Terribly bad idea. And they wrote an article on it. It actually resonated quite well on their
But then you ended up going to Cambodia anyway.
I did, yeah. One of the letters went to a guy who was a bricklayer who was doing a project there, and it was so cool.
He brought you along.
He drove, and they were building a health and education centre in Siem Reap with the good monk Sophia Yon. And I got to help out with that, and that was fantastic. You know, I got to lay some bricks there, and oh man, it's hot. But it was really great, and that led to some other things. I started a English program at the Teachers College. I helped put a good young doctor through medical school for as long as I could. And he's kicking goals, really great stuff. We did a number of projects together of health stuff, It was really great. Yeah, still lifelong friends with these guys.
You helped a Cambodian guy get through the school, did you?
Yeah, medical school. Yeah, he's a good young doctor now. Yeah, he's just a brilliant young doctor.
That's nice. And you've got 2 daughters, is that right?
2 daughters and a son. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're pretty proud of you. They'll be pretty proud of this picture, I think.
I think so. Yeah. Well, we've always known that I'm kooky, kind of thing. So nothing really surprises them. And I'm really open. I mean, there's some stuff, that you probably don't talk to your kids about. And I just tell them. I mean, even when they called her mum when I was on top of the truck, the AFP called their mum and they said, hey, look, your children's dad might be on the news tonight, so we just want to give you the heads up. And it didn't so much surprise them, it just didn't. They just,
Dad.
Yeah, that's Dad, so I guess this has been around a long time. Yeah, wonderful children, wonderful, wonderful children. They're just gorgeous, very clever, very, beautiful, yeah.
Well, I hope this picture gets hung, and I'm very proud to have you as a friend, and I think it's fantastic, and I hope you keep it up, and I hope it helps you. You keep on doing some more good stuff.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for allowing me to paint you. What a privilege, It's such a timely topic. It's such an important topic.
Yeah, we're here. I like it because we've struggled with the eyes a bit, and one of the things that we both on photos, the eyes look a bit more kind of out of place. I like it because I can see. It was funny. I was reading about the Archibald before won it, I guess, back in the 50s by the famous artist Dobell, and he wasn't, really. But people were so sort of unsophisticated in those days. They couldn't believe. They thought that the subject had a withered arm because it wasn't painted, to scale. And they couldn't believe that the subject's face wasn't this long and his arm wasn't that wide. So you just got to be prepared to accept it. But I like the fact that there's something a little bit ambiguous about the stairs. A lot of my critics say that I'm crazy. A lot of my fans say that I, think that I'm fantastic. But the idea that the eyes are a little bit, hard to place, I think that's great. I think it's really good. And hopefully the judges will agree, but I think it's great anyway. So thanks very much for coming down to Sydney for painting and coming on YouTube.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. The pleasure is all mine, believe me. Such a buzz.
Thank you.
Thank you.